Hello Game Boys and Game Girls, and welcome to another pickup video. This is going to be a somewhat longer video than the last time because this is multiple pickups across 3 different nights, so it's going to be awesome. So as I mentioned in my last video, I'm traveling for business and I'm trying to hit as many spots as I can while I've got time to find games. And the last 3 nights, I've been able to hit some places and pick up some things. So let me start with what I got 2 nights ago. I was able to stop at a game store that I haven't been to in quite some time, and I picked up a couple of items there. First of all, I got Pocket Bomberman for the Game Boy Color. Apparently, this is a good game according to the clerk that I spoke to. He said it was a 2D side-scrolling Bomberman sort of action platformer, but you still set bombs and do things like that. And so kind of almost sounded like Mighty Bomb Jack, but the opposite. Instead of collecting bombs, you're setting bombs. So anyway, it could be fun. I like Bomberman games, and so he highly recommended that. Next, finally picked up a copy of Ghost of Sparta. I got the God of War collection for PS3 some while back with the digital download of the remastered versions of both of the PSP titles. Played through them both on the PS3. Enjoyed all the God of War games. But I didn't actually have a physical copy of Ghost of Sparta yet for the PSP, so glad to finally have that. At this store, I also picked up some manuals that they happen to have out, which surprised me. But yeah, so I got Kirby's Block Ball for Game Boy. And I got a Game Gear manual for Echo the Dolphin, which is great. And RoboCop vs. Terminator. So that was a fun find. So that was 2 nights ago at a game store. Yesterday, I was able to hit one store on my way out after the work that I was doing, and I almost always hit this store because they usually have a handful of Game Boy titles that I'm looking for or that I haven't added to my collection yet. So I stopped there and got a few of those. So I got Boggle Plus. I got Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly, and I don't know much about this one except for the general reputation that most of the Bart Simpson games are pretty bad or just not very playable, but we'll see. I got PGA Tour 96. Let's see, I probably can't get that in the light. There we go. PGA Tour 96. EA Sports. I got Yogi Bear's Gold Rush. No idea what this game is like, but hey, why not? I got WWF Superstars 2, and of course that's got Hulk Hogan and the late Macho Man Randy Savage, so might be a little fun. And finally on Game Boy, finally got me a copy of Tracks. Of course, Matt the Game Boy has covered this one on his channel, and he says it's a great game. Looks awesome. I've never played it, so I look forward to putting some time into that. And then while I was there, I also grabbed one Game Gear cart, and that's Woody Pop. I remember seeing a review of this many years ago, and it's basically a breakout Arkanoid-style bat and ball game. The cover art is somewhat deceptive. It looks like a robot made out of wood throwing a large metal ball, but actually when you look at the gameplay footage, it's just sort of like a log that you move back and forth on the screen, and then it bounces the ball and breaks the bricks. So anyway, looks like fun, and I think I'll enjoy that one. So that was last night. So today, after doing the work that I was here to do, I went out and I hit several spots. and I would have to say I don't know if struck gold is the right word, but I certainly had a good day of game hunting. So, the first place that I stopped, they didn't have any Game Boy games that I was missing, and some of their other stuff that they had that I would normally go for was priced a little bit higher than I would usually want to pay. So I decided not to buy any games from them, but they offer loose manuals. So I bought a whole stack of loose manuals. So I got Star Wars: The New Droid Army, or Star Wars The New Droid Army for Game Boy Advance. I got this 4-way board game pack. Sorry, Aggravations, Scrabble Jr. I guess it's just a 3-way pack. I got that recently, so cool to have the manual for that. As you saw in a pickup video I did while I was down in Texas, I got We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, so now I have the manual. I also recently picked up the American version of Adventure Island 2, Aliens in Paradise. I've had a Chinese pressing or printing of that for a year and a half or two now, but only finally recently got the US version, so cool to have the manual for that as well. Manual for Tetris DX on the Game Boy Color. Centipede on the Game Boy Color. The very thick manual for Golden Sun on the Game Boy Advance. And glad to have that, because this game it's an RPG. It's a little bit more expensive than your average $5 to $8 GBA game. And a young lady that my wife and I fostered and then later did guardianship for had said that she and her brother put a ton of time into Golden Sun when she was a little younger. So I'll have to track down the actual Game Boy cart now. Also got a manual for Tetris 2 for Game Boy. Shanghai Pocket for Game Boy Color. Not heard of that, but I've played Shanghai, just not this particular game. And Scooby-Doo Classic Creep Capers for Game Boy Color. A bit random, the Wild Thornberries Rambler for Game Boy Color. And Mega Man Zero for Game Boy Advance. Picked up a couple of PlayStation manuals as well, including Wild Arms, which is great because that's a game that's become a bit more in demand recently. And the Greatest Hits manual for Final Fantasy IX. This might be an upgrade for me because I've got Final Fantasy IX Greatest Hits. I don't remember what condition the manual's in, but this one's in pretty good shape, so that might be an upgrade for me. Picked up a couple additional Game Gear manuals here as well. Beavis and Butthead. And Sonic Chaos, which I got recently. I got a couple of manuals for the PSP. I got Daxter, which is great because I have a complete copy of it, but I had a case, artwork, and disc copy that I gave to my nephew as a birthday present here a month or so ago. And so now I'll be able to give him the manual and he can enjoy that. And I also got Assassin's Creed Bloodlines. Really, really good condition manual. So if I come across a copy of this one in the wild with no manual, normally I wouldn't pick them up, but now I can. I got a couple of GameCube manuals as well. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, and that will be an upgrade for me because my copy is a little bit got some water damage, and so that'll be good because this one's in pretty good shape. I got Super Mario Strikers. I don't have this game yet, but cool to have the manual for that. So I could buy an an incomplete copy. And Metroid Prime. I don't have that either, but copies of Metroid Prime usually go for a decent amount of money, so either way, I may be able to either use this as a trade or just hold on to it until I find a copy of Metroid Prime Sans Manual. So that was all of my manual pickups from today. The second place that I went to was a pawn shop, and real nice guy, clerk there that I dealt with was pretty cool. Started chatting me up because of my TMN t-shirt and because of the Game Boy games. And so I picked up a few things there. I got Home Alone, and these are all in the cases, which is great. I got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which I was never a Power Rangers fan, and I shudder to think that this game might actually be decent, but we'll find out when I actually put it in and play it. The Addams Family, which I don't think I've ever seen. There are a number of Addams Family games out on NES and Super NES, but I don't think I've ever seen the Game Boy game, so we'll see what that's like. And finally, R-Type. I've had R-Type DX on Game Boy Color. Bought that as a new release, and I still have it complete in the box. Played that a bunch, but I still didn't have the original R-Type release, so glad to have that. And finally, from that pawn shop, I got Coated Arms for PSP in really good shape, good manual, good case and artwork. The snaps are in good shape, which is always good, and then of course the disc looks good. So that should be fun. The next place I went to after that was another game store that I hadn't been to in a couple of years, at least, and I picked up a few things there. I got T2 on Game Boy. Also for Game Boy, I got Pipe Dream. Glad to have that finally. And another one that I haven't seen in the wild for a while, and that is Go-Go Tank. They had a copy of Universal Soldier, and they wanted $27 for it. And I thought to myself, that seems high, even though I know it's slightly more rare. So I checked price charting, and as of right now, it's going for $13. So I asked them if there was any wiggle room on it, and they said no. So I declined to pick that one up. I also grabbed a couple of complete PSP games. Rainbow Six Vegas, which I didn't have yet. And also Rengoku 2 Stairway to Heaven, or HEAVEN. This is some kind of acronym. I'm not sure what it's for yet because it doesn't say on the back of the box, but I'm sure the manual will state that. And this game apparently used to belong to someone named Ram. So thank you, Ram. I'll have to break out the rubbing alcohol to try and clean that up later. And my final stop for the day, I got a couple of other things at wasn't necessarily a game shop. It was like a CD, movie, and games place all in one. All pretty much sell all used stuff and then some new vinyl and things like that. So I picked up a couple Game Boy games and a few other odds and ends. And so I got Track and Field, and I also got Double Dribble 5-on-5. Double Dribble. And no idea if that's any good, but the original NES Double Dribble was good, even though I'm not a big sports fan. That was at least a well-designed, fun game to play. So hopefully the Game Boy version isn't half bad. I got Saycross and nice to have the sleeve with that as well. It was the only game on the shelf that had the sleeve. So I didn't have this one yet and decided it was time to add it to the collection. And finally, I got a batch of PSP games. I got Resistance Retribution. Didn't have that one yet. Most places I've seen wanted more money for it than I wanted to pay because it's such a common game. I picked up Lego Indiana Jones, The Original Adventures. I actually bought this. I already purchased this game a couple of years ago as a Christmas or birthday present for my nephew who has a PSP, and he really enjoyed it. I got him both of the Lego Indiana Jones games, and he said it was really good, and so I finally picked up a copy for me. I also got Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Looked like that might be kind of fun. And finally, and most expensively, I picked up Persona. Of course, the Persona games have become wildly popular over the last few years, and anything Persona now is expensive no matter where you buy it, unless you happen upon it, at a garage sale or Goodwill or something like that. So glad to finally have that. It's an RPG. I know that I don't have oodles of time, but since I'm going for a complete PSP set, I was bound to collect this at some point. So I figured I might as well get it now because I'm not going to probably find it for a better price anytime soon. That is everything that I picked up. Lots of great stuff. A handful of games that are more collection hole fillers rather than stuff that I'm going to actually sit down and play. But, there's stuff that I will definitely play, like Sacross, Woody Pop, Tracks, and some of the other Game Boy titles. Most of the PSP stuff I know I'll put some time into at some point. And, of course, love finding loose manuals. That's all I've got. Thanks for watching. And as always, thanks for playing, and game on.